Alright, this is just a quick follow-up video from the previous demonstration of the new Onboard version 2 features, and this will just show some of the code that was working behind that and talk a little bit more about the features from a code point of view. So one of the major changes we've made, which wasn't mentioned in the previous video, is that we've separated out all the Onboard wallet modules into separate packages that can be installed independently of each other, and the Onboard core repo is its own package. So previously in version 1 of Onboard, it was a monolithic package. You would install it and you would get all the dependencies for every single wallet regardless of whether you use them in your app or not. Whereas now you can just install the dependencies that are needed for the particular wallets that you're using in your app. And this allows for a lot easier solving of sort of build environment problems, and also keeps the dependencies down. It also helps us with sort of management of bugs and features and things like that, in that if there may be a bug in, say, one of these wallet modules, you can just temporarily remove it from your app and the rest of Onboard is completely unaffected, whereas that wasn't always the case in version 1. So that's one of the major changes there. You go ahead and initialize all the wallet modules just like you did in version 1 of Onboard. They all have different different options that are needed for initialization, which are all documented in the separate package readmes. And then once you've got all those modules ready, you go ahead and initialize Onboard and you pass them into the wallets array, and Onboard will take care of the rest, which is pretty similar to version 1 of Onboard. One of the other major changes we've made is that you can now define multiple chains that your app is deployed on. It's a common pattern now for dApps to be deployed on multiple chains, whereas previously in 01 it was more of a case of setting the network ID that your app was deployed on, and then Onboard would programmatically try and enforce that before the user makes a transaction. But nowadays, like I said, it's very common to have multiple chains, so now we allow you to define that all up front, and that allows the user to be on any one of these sort of valid networks / chains. But it also allows you to programmatically push them to a particular chain if you'd like as well, which I'll show a little bit later with the set chain method. We've got an app metadata section, which is just some basic metadata about your app, so that the UI will display your icon, your app icon and name and a description and things like that. We've also got an agreement section, so if you want users to need to check a checkbox that they agree to the terms and conditions or the privacy before connecting a wallet, you can do that. Another major feature we've added in version 2 is that we've fully internationalized all the copy throughout O2. So we have the default EN locale, and you can just override that, so it's very easy just to override the default copy if you wanted to, but you can also add as many locales as you want, pass them in, and then Onboard will take care of rendering the correct locale based on the user's browser. So it's much easier to fully internationalize your app. And so they're the basic Onboard initialization options. So in the demo, just to render what wallets were connected, we subscribed using the state object on the API. We can select just the wallets, and then we get a RxJS observable back that will be you can subscribe to, and will be called with updates to any of the wallets, whether they're connected or any of the state within the wallets is changed. You don't need to know anything about RxJS to use this, but that can be handy if you want to use some of the pipeable operators and do all sorts of fancy stuff there. But you can just simply subscribe and unsubscribe to those subscriptions. So that demonstrates some of how the state works. You can also just call the get method, which will just get you, imperatively will just get you the current state of Onboard, so you can always just access it that way if you prefer that compared to an events-driven type architecture. So yeah, that's the state section of the API. It's a pretty simple API now. We've got the connect wallet function, and that's what you saw when we clicked the connect button in the previous video. That'll return a promise with the wallets array, so the updated wallets array, which can contain multiple wallets, which is one of those new features we demonstrated. You can also disconnect a wallet, so you can just disconnect one of the wallets if a user wants to remove that from your app. That's a pretty simple function. And then we have the set chain function, which you pass a chain ID, so you could switch your user over, say, to the Rinkeby network. If no wallet is passed in with this chain ID, it'll just programmatically work on the first wallet in the wallets array, which is the last one connected. But you can pass in a wallet which would be the wallet label, something like MetaMask or something like that, and that'll target that particular wallet, which is quite handy. And that's an overview of some of the code that was working in that demo.